Hello, welcome to my series about all Chopin Mazurkas, series called How to Understand Chopin Mazurkas. The idea of this series is to make Chopin Mazurkas more understandable and closer to the general public, to make you understand better this very sometimes difficult music. Very introvert, very special, very Polish, based on Polish folk dances and like a poetry, Polish poetry. Today I focus on the mazurka which I consider the most difficult to understand, the most difficult to absorb. Mazurka in C minor, Opus 56, number 3. I myself have to admit that when I listened to it for the first time, I was just like, what is this? I didn't understand this piece, the inner message, the complicated structure. I couldn't catch the melody. I don't know, maybe I was not lucky for good performance, the good performer or interpretation, or I just was not focused enough, or I don't know. But generally speaking, for a random music lover, it's not an easy piece. And here I am to try to make it closer to you, and I have to admit that this episode for me personally is the most difficult and it's the greatest challenge. So let me start from a few words written about this mazurka, written by Professor Mieczysław Tomaszewski, Polish musicologist, well, Chopinologist, I would say. And he is writing as follows, and I quote: "The third of Opus 56 Mazurkas, as was the case in previous sets, has the character and shape of a dance poem. It is in the key of C minor and sounds quite nostalgic. It forms something like a mosaic of themes." Yes, this is very special, very difficult in this mazurka actually. The mosaic of different themes seem to grow organically from one another. The opening bars show not so much a theme as it is conception. Not so much a theme as its conception, sketched with a fine contour in polyphonic technique. The polyphonic technique in this opus and in this period of Chopin's life is extremely important and difficult to absorb immediately, to catch, because it's not typical for Chopin that we know from earlier times. The mazurka in C minor moved and astonished its later interpreters. For example, Ferdinand Hössig heard it rather the music of memories than of reality. Ferdinand Hössig also wrote that this is a kind of dance of ghosts, not really human beings, and I agree with that. Zdzisław Jachimecki, Polish musicologist, another, saw in its tonal boldness the foundations for the music of future times. And here I stop. Foundations of the music for future times. I think we can hear everything what I've just read. I will try to make this episode as clear and as easy to understand as possible, but forgive me if it will be impossible, but I will deeply try. Why impossible? Well, you will hear. To make it clear, I think it's a good idea to go part by part and to go deeply into every part, to have a deeply analysis, and maybe even, forgive me this, try to connect the music with something outside of music, to make some connections which will make us remember the certain episodes of the mazurka. I want to assure you that I don't want to make this mazurka a cheap music, or if I connect this to some, I don't know, to some people or some situations or some stories, it's not to make it cheaper, it's not to to make it, I don't know, childish or something, because this music is extremely deep, but just to help you to understand it better, absorb it better, and to connect the certain episodes with one another. So how does it start? I play for you now the whole part A. We can call this part big A. Okay, and here I stop, because here I think we can cut the line, we can draw the line, and we can start part B, the big part B. And I think you agree with me, it's rather difficult to absorb and understand at first listening. What's so special about the beginning? I think we can hear that the composer who wrote this, so it's Chopin, of course, he is deeply inspired like I don't know, in his own world, and just maybe improvising and creating the special kind of atmosphere, melancholy, feeling of being lost. And the beginning, just listen to the beginning. Two notes which create the energy. We have the octave, so 8 notes. 8 notes difference, we build the energy. Then we have the accent on this second note, and this note stays for 3 bars. So we need actually a big grand piano to make it sound for 3 bars. Anyway, and this is what we should focus on, Chopin is telling us. And then in the background we have the melody, the text, the message. Again. This message, this text is very special, because we have here like 2 voices. Excuse me for a second. It's getting a little bit dark in here, so I just have to open the light. Oh, now it's better. So we have just like 2 voices here. So polyphony, right? The first voice is going up, the voice in the left hand is going down. And this is extremely important because at the end of the piece we will have the opposite. But I will talk about it later. So what is the character? Well, we feel some kind of żal, some kind of sorrow, some kind of pain. And also hesitation. But what I want to point is the very special way of how it's written and a big challenge for the pianist. Something that when I look at it, it seems almost impossible to play. And what is this? Well, as I said before, to keep this long note as close to us so that it's always shining, and then in the background like ghosts, something unreal. And then this note, and again. I think this is what Chopin wanted because that's how it's written in the score. If we go deeper into it, it has a meaning. It is a kind of symbol. One light. And then something in the fog of this light which creates around the light. What is also interesting is that it's being repeated 3 times. So I can decide which voice I want to play louder, which I want to hide. And there are many options. One of them is to show the upper voice all the time. Another is to show the lower voice all the time. But also we can differentiate. We can choose. For example, I start with the upper voice. And then the lower voice. And upper voice again. And here we reach a kind of climax, but I will talk about it a little later. Now let's try another option. Let's try lower voice first. And upper. And lower again. Well, this sounds a little bit awkward to me, a little bit strange. Because when I play the upper voice for the second time, it comes out suddenly like from nothing. So I think it's better to start with the upper voice. And now crescendo, and we reach the first, like a mazurka rhythm, the dance. Pam, pa, pam. And this is important because all the mazurka is based on this rhythm, pam, pa, pam, pam, pa, pam. All the themes which will follow, they will have this rhythm, mazur rhythm. But definitely it's extremely poetic. It's like a poem. And then what we have, so when we reach this statement, then we have the echo. 2 times the echo. So we can imagine that we are in the mountains and we just scream, and then we are alone, and only echo is coming to us 2 times. Tim papa. And after that, we have the second melody. This sounds like a Polish folk melody, but it's not the quotation, but somewhere very, from far, far, far away. So it's like it's not real. And then everything starts again. It's like Chopin wants us to listen again, because for the first time it was too difficult, so we can focus on other things. And echo. Melody, second melody. And now it starts something else, which doesn't really belong to A, but also it's hard to say that it belongs to B. So it's in between. Transition, we can call it a transition maybe. First, we have something which is quite easy to understand. We have like a melody going up, based on Polish folk mazur rhythm, but it's like heroic. I would say it's heroic, and it sounds a little bit like a choir of men is singing. Listen. Maybe not choir of men, but I just said choir of men because I imagined Polish soldiers, you know, ułani we call them, Polish soldiers singing. It's a very proud melody, almost like a polonaise, very proud, and then after that, suddenly everything is changing. Immediately, and that's why this is one of the reasons why this mazurka is so difficult to absorb. It's immediately something else. We have like a woman, well, playing around, running and dancing, and together with her in the lower voice, the man is joining her. I don't know if you can hear it. And she is having fun, but and it sounds so nice, except the fact that we are in a wrong key, completely wrong key. For those of you who know the keys, F sharp major. F sharp major in Mazurka C minor. Just before that, we had the B flat major, and so if we play together B flat major and F sharp, oh yeah, it hurts. Yes, that's how much these two keys are far away from each other. They completely don't match. So I think it's very symbolic, this part. In general, I consider this mazurka, going very deeply inside, as a symbol of life, in general, of the whole life. And so it's like a symbol of life, and it ends, well, like life ends with death. But in this mazurka, the death is very optimistic. It's in a major. So it's like in Bach music, right? It's a resurrection. It's like a Catholic vision of death, bright happiness. Well, as long, of course, as the person that deserved this, but in general, optimistically, well, the resurrection. So there is no death in the end, and like in Schubert music, I think. But we will talk about it at the end of the piece. But now let's just consider this symbol of life. If we have symbol of life and we are lost, in general lost. Chopin's life at that time was very tragic. He was very sick. He lost his friend who died on his hands almost. He felt rather lonely because his relationship with George Sand slowly started to vanish, and he was far away from his family, from Poland. The Poland was still not independent, so also his patriotic feelings and everything is here in this mazurka. So after this short patriotic proudness, we have suddenly we reach the key which is completely different. It's like in our journey through life, we got completely lost. We did something we shouldn't, or I don't know. It's a very special thing because anyway, on the one hand, it's dolce and it sounds very nice. It sounds very good. It's almost like, Faust and Mephisto, something like that. So it's something we enjoy, but we are in the wrong key. And now, this forte, this sudden change, it sounds for our ears, it sounds a little strange. Wait, what? Don't you think so? But this part actually is we are suddenly back to the B major key. So the key we should be all the time. So if I skip this whole F sharp major part, so the part with the wrong key, how it would sound? Better. Just listen. Like this, or the other way. Let me play it again. And part B. So it sounds okay because we are in the same key, but what is Chopin doing? Now I play how it's written. And now this part. And we are back. In part B. So now I play for you the whole part B. So just listen. back at the beginning. So here, if you listen carefully, we have also 3 different parts. We have like A, B, C, and back to A. So A, B, C, A, right? And then after A, there's a short conclusion, and we are back at the beginning of the piece. So as I said, this makes this mazurka a little bit difficult because Chopin is constantly changing the character, constantly changing his mind. It's like he's waving around and he's lost. And that's why I'm saying that this is really a symbol of his life at that time. Maybe subconsciously he wrote like this. Maybe he tried to open new, he tried to, how to say, improve his language. He tried to achieve something new, something else, the new language. And in fact, this Opus 56, what other pieces we have? Later we have his great sonata, Opus 58, sonata number 3. We have Mazurkas, Opus 59, and we have Opus 60, which is Barcarolle, 61, Polonaise Fantasy, 62, Nocturnos, 63, Mazurkas, and so on. 64 waltzes, and that's the end, actually. So we are very close to the end of Chopin's life. And definitely it's a mature composer who is looking for something new, composer who is like Beethoven in his 9th symphony, who is looking into the future. And this is what Chopin is doing in this masterpiece. But let's listen again. Part B starts, I call it a march, actually a march. It's not really, it's on 3, but it sounds like it's on 2. It sounds like we can march, and we can imagine again the group of Polish soldiers, or maybe medieval knights, who knows. Poland was in a medieval, it was a very strong, powerful country. We are very proud of it, the biggest in Europe. Chopin of course knew the history of Poland, and he was very proud. In general, Polish people are very proud of their history, especially before we just lost our country and we got splitted into 3 different countries, and we lost our independence for 123 years. But that's another story. But here definitely it's like I'm proud to be Polish, and it's like more like a kind of march of brave people who will never give in, who will always be fighting for the independence. Just listen to this again. First we hear them from far away, but they are approaching us, and then later everybody is singing together with our hearts open and with full of power. If everybody... I think it should be played, and it should sound. And then after that, suddenly the change, huge change. We have a solo part. The beautiful melody, very vocal. We can hear. We can hear maybe the man singing first, then the woman singing, maybe on the countryside, just a solo singing, but not really solo, because in the left hand, what is this? It's like a guitar, right? A kind of folk guitar. So we can imagine somebody singing, but yes, singing after this march, suddenly one person. This melody, I think, is the heart of this mazurka. It's so sincere, it's so touching that we can even cry while listening to it. I just open my heart now when I play for you and just listen to this. I will try to do it as beautifully as I can. We have another melody, like a part C, which is so unreal that it's like only in our dreams. In our dreams, or in our fantasy, or somewhere very, very far away, we hear Polish folk melody. Chopin is recalling some girl who was singing this melody long time ago, 20 years ago. He loved her. Maybe he's recalling her. We don't know. Transition. And we are back to the beginning of part B. So back to the beginning of this march, of this hymn. And everybody singing. Back at the beginning of the piece. So something happened, like a big pain, drama, tension, and we are back at the beginning. A genius moment. And then back at the beginning, without any changes, Chopin will take us exactly like he did at the beginning, and then when it comes in the second time, then after a while, when we finish this left hand opens a new world, and I call this world like last years of Chopin's life, the symbol of last years of Chopin's life. Maybe Chopin didn't know how it will look, but in general we have here what we hear in 1 minute is just the continuous pain, suffering, missing something, and the dialogue. Maybe the inner dialogue, or the dialogue with, dialogue of heart and brain, or dialogue with some woman, or whatever it is. But there is a dialogue full of pain and suffering. So just listen. Until here, and from here only one woman left. We don't know if it's a woman, but I'm always saying this, it's a woman when we have the right part of the key. It's a natural way of thinking, but of course it can be just the expressing of some feelings. And it's really so painful that when I play it, I just want to cry. Seriously, we have such a sincere pain here. And then the answer of like a choir of ghosts. And again, this person. And again. An answer. And the answer. And there's the final part now. Do you know what is this? Of course, it's the beginning. Except, this is very interesting and very special. The melody which before played left hand, now right hand is playing. And the melody which right hand played, now left hand is playing. So they just changed and mixed. C major. So finally we feel peace. So I'm so happy that Chopin ended this mazurka in major, because he ended it optimistically. It's not a total disaster, it's not a full depression, complete depression. Of course, it's deeply sad, especially the ending, but it ends in a bright C major. So that's how it is. Let's listen again this part C of the mazurka, so the ending and the dialogue. I want you to focus now on the dialogue, which I will try to emphasize while playing. Just to tell you, first we have the upper voice, then the lower voice is answering, and then later the lower voice says something, and then they are singing together, but completely two different melodies, like in Bach music. So these melodies are very strange. They are not really typical Chopin's melodies. It's very difficult to catch the melody, to sing it, because it is the apotheosis of pain, actually, the chromatic scale going down. And after that, only one person stays. The other, I don't know, is dead already or whatever. But only one, and is suffering, and then the choir of some ghosts of, I don't know, the death itself is answering, and then again full of pain, and then again the answering. So always the dialogue. So just listen. Together. And now only one stays. Again, two together, two different teams. and C major. Freedom. No more pain. Yes. So I don't know what to do now. I hope I was not too chaotic. I hope I could make you understand this piece a little better. There are many different parts. So what I want to do is, I think it's a good idea that I play it through again from the beginning to the end, and while playing, I will try to explain where actually we are. So we start from building energy and then listening to one note, but in the background we have something very interesting: two melodies which are being torn away from each other. They are getting more far because one is going down, one is going up, and it will happen 3 times. And by the way, I forgot to say something very important. So if you are still here, congratulations. Because now I want to say this very important thing. This melody repeated 3 times in the different keys, so it's exactly it affects the DNA of the whole opus, like what I said in my other episodes from Opus 56, that in Opus 56 we have one thing in common in every mazurka: the melody which is looking for the correct key, so it's changing the key. And it's not so common, and it never happened before in mazurkas, and only in this opus we have it consequently. Okay, so echo 2 times. And then folk melody far away. And again the same thing. Then the transition. Proudness. And then suddenly, wrong key. We are coming back. Part B. So hymn, march. And everybody is singing. And then solo with guitar as an accompaniment. then folk Polish melody Far Away. Of the piece. Part C, so the dialogue. Pain, and then he answers. And two melodies at the same time. Expression of pain. The choir. Again. Again. Again, yes. The end. It sounds like a beginning. And C major. That's the end. So, very special piece. Thank you for listening, and I hope now it's more clear, it's easier to understand, and it's easier to say that this is really a beautiful music. Because it is. Maybe it's not my favorite mazurka, but it's definitely one of the top 10, because I feel very deeply Chopin's heart put all in this music. Thank you very much, and I invite you to my next videos in the future. Bye bye.